Astrology moves around 12 houses. 12 houses are basically 360-degree, the complete circle. The complete circle which starts from self and it ends where we connect with the God and we go away, or you can say die also. So this cycle starts from the first house, goes till 12th house. So when I said 360-degree, which means 30-degree each goes to every house. So what we need to do? We divide this complete 360-degree into 12 houses, and these 12 houses denote everything about us: body parts, relationships, people, materials, incidents, illness patterns, professions, and even they tell us the directions, what is coming and how it's coming, our karma theories which we are carrying from the past and what we'll be covering doing out here and taking in the future. So in literal sense we can just say 12 houses means our complete life. So to understand these 12 houses we need to understand every house in a proper sense. I will be giving you today the basic explanations of these houses. And to become a good astrologer, the very basic thing is to understand what these houses are all about. If we are able to gather what these houses are all about, I will say you know almost 10, 20% or 30% of the astrology. If you are able to understand what each house is getting out and making relationship with which planet or which transit or which dasha or which rashi are there, the relationship between both, you know almost 50% of the astrology. And trust me, nowadays knowing 50% of the astrology means you are an expert astrologer also. Because the courses which come out here and say learn astrology in 1 month or things like those don't even give you 10% of astrology. So if you are a student of astrology or looking forward to understand astrology, you have to start with the basic of understanding the houses. And to do that, what I did, I created a complete book on it, 360-degree world of houses, so that you can understand in a deeper sense everything. It covers almost everything. But in today's video, I'll be giving you in brief on those each houses. Starting from the first house, I will take you to the journey till the 12th house. So these 12 houses, the counting starts from the first house. First house is Lagna house or Tanubhava also. So this house is about me, my personality, or your own body, your own personality. This is the house where on the horizon, the sign was rising. So the direction comes to it automatically is east. Karka comes on to it naturally is sun. And when we talk about body part, the come is skull or head. So if any kind you see any malefics or anything, you will generally see people having sinus or headaches or migraines because of this first house. This is the first house means that this is how my relationship or my personality the world will see. How people will look at me also. So if you will ask me what this first house is all about, I will say this first house is the energy source, and this first house is the house which will be the controller of yours. This is the house which will actually drive your life. So this house is actually you, who you are. Very important house. More details you can read in the book. Is given with the material also, relationships also, in other breakups also. But this house is really important to be learned, because your base of astrology, any prediction will always start with the first house or Lagna house. Second house is basically Dhan Bhava. Dhan is material wealth. So money, saving, your potential to save comes from this house. Element goes to the second house is earth element. So wherever the earth element comes, stability comes into that. This is the house where we see the relationship with our family, extended family we say, not immediate family like mother, father, brother, but extended family. Maybe you can just say Mama ji, Chacha ji, and those kind of things. Second house is the next step from the first. So if you can just say, in the first step we were born, in the second step from where the speech will come or our words will start coming. So if you want to know if the person has got harsh words or very mild words to use, or what kind of language the person must be using, second house is the one. Moreover, second house also controls our taste patterns, what kind of food we will be liking. Because anything which is related to our below the from eyes till our mouth comes in the second house. So our eating habits, things, what kind of food I will like, second house comes into focus. If we look at the Kalpurush Kundli, Venus becomes the Lord. And when we look at the karkas of this house, obviously Jupiter also comes along with Venus. Even Mercury goes into it, because they all are about accumulating wealth and thinking about like wealth elements. When we see the second house relationship, it is indirectly getting connected with the eighth house. So from the hidden to the wealth accumulation, this is the indirect connection also the second house builds. More details you can find in the book, but basically on the broad, this is how we can explain the second house. We can also see the direction, material, because even in Prashna Kundli, houses matter a lot. Because Prashna Kundli is what? You need to putting a question and you need to see the answers through the house patterns only, and the how the planet patterns are moving. So houses becomes too important for astrology students. Try to understand as closely as possible. Trust me, astrology will come very easy if you can really mug up or understand the house patterns. Third house, we call it Sahaja Bhava or Bhratri Bhava also. Bhratri comes from siblings. Sahaj means easy. Third house is very important because this is the house of our communication also, and this house is also the house of our courage also. What I told you earlier, first house we are born, second house we pick up words, third house is where the communication or basic studies will start. Each house has got many things into it. Karka comes as like Mercury also, because this is communication. And when I said courage, even Mars comes as a Karka out here. And if we look at materials also or animals also, we can find from the houses. Parrot comes as a very natural animal for the third house. Third house is very important in Bhavat Bhavam concept. This is the increase of the first house. The third house becomes increase of the first. Because I was born, when my younger one will be born, it will be in the third house, my younger sibling. The increase of me in the family. Third house signifies writing skills also, communication skills also, talking skills also. So you can see how strangely We are talking courage also on one side, and we are talking about writing skills and communication skills also on this side of it. It also involves short time contracts or short travels also. So if you are in some kind of property business or something where a lot of contract are required, third house comes into action. Third house is very important because it involves our body parts below our face till our lungs. So our lungs, breathing power, lungs power also comes from the third house. You can see how beautifully we can see, look at the ingredients, relationship, animals, directions, what to do. So if anybody comes to you as an astrology student, a question on one subject, easily you know which house to look at, and look at the relationship those houses are making or their lords are making. Look at the dasha, look at the transit, look at the nakshatras. Easily you can play with the permutation combination, but root is always will remain the houses. Further defined is in the book about each house, but they are root of astrology. If your roots are weak, the tree will not grow tall enough and it will fall down. So make the root of this houses very well and try to understand and read in detail about houses quite well. Fourth house is the Sukh Sthana. Sukh is our luxuries, pleasure, peace, nurturing, easiness, easy life. Fourth house, directly when we talk about, represents mother, the protection of mother. How the mother will grow you? This is the place where the teachings from the mother will come to you. Your primary education, you can just say initial one, which your mother will teach you. This is all about your upbringing. It tells us how your childhood had been. It tells what was the kind of protection or what kind of environment you were growing in. This is very crucial house. Kendra house, very crucial house. Because this is primarily governed by moon, and moon is emotions. The whole Vedic astrology works on the primary base of moon or emotions. We say mind can give you a lot of answers. But even if the answer is correct and your emotions are not matching, you will not do that thing. So, who is your driver? Your emotions. So, when emotions are our driver, fourth house becomes the core of it. So, as it is a Sukh Sthana, it also involves your luxuries, your assets, your land, your house. So this house needs to be activated if you really want land and house and things like this. Because all your assets, whatever gives you the pleasure, fourth house is the one. Very important house. This is indirectly connects with the seventh thing, with the 10th house. So end of the day, whatever your happiness also, which is connected with your profession, also comes from the fourth house. Body part side, it involves our chest, our heart. Not exactly when we talk about the complete heart element as a particular heart as a piece of or one part of our body, it involves all the things around it. So anything around in our chest comes from the fourth house. So we can see a lot of illness patterns, especially the kind of heart attack people are getting nowadays, things. Fourth house becomes really important to give you the prediction if anything or any weakness in the body is. If we understand these houses, illness or when we talk about wellness both ways, these houses act beautifully out there. They give you a lot of idea on what is coming because the activations we can read through various other elements, but what you are born with, whatever promises you are born with, or whatever contract God has given you, These houses tell you about those. So if we understand these contract patterns and promises, which you must have heard in so many your teachings and whatever you study, your teachers tell, they say if the promise is present, then only something can get activated. So when the promise is missing, nothing will get activated. So promises are seen from the houses in particular. And which promise in which house, that's what you need to know. This is the base root. Read furthermore. Book will tell you much more in detail on this. Fifth house is called Putra Bhava. Putra is child. So obviously we can see children from this house. The potential, whether having problem in children or children will give you some kind of thing, or even your own relationship with children, this is the house. But fifth house is an immense, big, deep house because it is also the Trikon house. Three Trikon houses. I've already told you about first house, now fifth house, and the ninth house. Three Trikon houses. Lakshmi Sthan. This also governs our hobbies, what we want to do, what the kind of lifestyles we want, what things we want to do in our day-to-day basis. So it is basically, in literal sense also, your heart. Literal in the sense, if we look at the illness thing, heart particularly comes from the fifth house. Yes, other things around the heart also, some abdomen things also. It goes towards till a bit of kidney sides also, but particularly heart comes from the fifth house. So children, heart, your hobbies, your day-to-day things, what you want to do. And if we further add, your romance comes from the fifth house. So what kind of romantic life or what kind of lifestyle you will be or what kind of people you will be connecting, fifth house comes into the focus. Fifth house is very important house. It indirectly connects with the 11th house. 11th house, I will be explaining further, but it's about desires. So desires getting connected with your hobbies and things you want to do, your passion. This house also represents speculation, your power to speculate. If you will ask me share market, look at fifth house. If you will say success in business, I will say look at fifth house. If you will say what is increase of courage? The third house, Bhavat Bhavam concept. Third from the third is fifth. So your courage increases, your speculation power increases in the fifth house. So fifth house becomes too important. Children comes out here. And the biggest thing which not to be missed comes from the fifth house is your education levels. So if you want to know what kind of education you will have, fifth house, look at it. So this your education house also very important. Too many things into it: speculation, romance, children, education. So this house becomes a huge driver. In the book, I have also given the deities also you can just pray and the remedies also you can do house-wise. So if you want to know further more on it, book has got more meanings into it, so that understanding the houses becomes a good basic base root of use. Sixth house is our karma point also, and it's called Shatru Bhava or Rog Bhava or even Rin Bhava at times, because it represents Rog, Rin. So it represents Rog, Rin or Ripu. Rog is illness. So illness can be seen from this house in particular. When we talk about illness patterns, it represents our digestive system. When we talk about Rin, our point or reason to take money or loans and things, giving, taking money comes from sixth house. And Ripu is disputes, Shatru. So if we'll win over our enemies or if we'll have enemies or no enemies or whatever kind of thing, this is the house. As this house involves karma or conscious actions, this house also represents your employment. So if you'll ask me what kind of job, things, kind can come from other house, but how the job will go about, how you will be behaving in the job, sixth house will come into action. And in relationship, it involves colleagues, people with whom you work. Important house taken as negative house because it gives you the health focus out here, illness points out there. Taken as a negative thing because it gives you about shatru. Shatru is fight, and people are not comfortable about that. Even loans also. So taken as a negative house for sure, because the combination of 6, 8, 12 is taken as a negative houses. But in real sense, this is the winner house, because if we activate it in a proper way, we can actually defeat our illnesses, we can defeat our shatrus or enemies. If we are able to really understand the essence of sixth house, we can have a very good healthy lifestyle, and moreover we can connect with the society with a very good service to the society. So it has got a great significance because the real action comes from this house only. Other houses tell you about situations, but action comes from this house. Other houses will tell you how you will feel, but how you will react comes from the sixth house. So if we are able to understand what way we need to react, we are able to make ourselves winners. So winners or losers, sixth house is the one who creates out of it. Deeper meaning is there. We need to understand the ingredients, animals. In my book, I've already written about that bees and ants comes from the sixth house because they represent organization, working together. So if we have to understand working together thing, sixth house. So there are remedies also, there are materials also which we can use to actually activate the sixth house. Can read more in book about that. Seventh house is directly somewhere connected with the first house. Because of this connection, it becomes a very important house for us because it also gives us the indication of Markesh. Markesh is death like pain giving planet. Seventh house involves our relationship. When we talk about marriage or any relationship, any, here I'm using broader words, any relationship with the world comes from the seventh house. So what we require? We require diplomacy, the skill of negotiation, the skill where we connect ourselves with others, and when we surrender to them or when we try to openly deal with them. Here what it comes, when we say openly deal, means open enemies also come out here. Enemies which will fight with you directly, openly. As negotiation comes, all the contracts also come out here. And when we talk about contracts, relationship skills, then comes the partnerships. So when we talk about negotiation skills, diplomacy, relationships, then we talk about partnership also, partnership related to business. So when we talk about what kind of relationship or in business partnership, you can see again this house comes into the focus. Because it's a Kendra house, it also involves, gives you the insight of business also. When it connects with the fifth house is 11th from the 7th, which is in the Bhavat Bhavam concept, the desires. You can just look at what kind of person will be having desires to have romantic relationships. As this house is too crucial, even your relationship with the animals also will come into focus out here. This house is very active house because the core of you and the world comes from here, your spouse comes from here. When we talk about body parts, adrenal body parts or lower spine also comes from there. Our digestive system comes from here. So anything which is very close to our private parts come from the seventh house. And how you treat it, this becomes the base of it, because I always say digestive system is the powerhouse in the body which will cure you or kill you, because even if you take the medicines, they will fall in your digestive system and then only can get spread. So this is a very crucial house to activate or work on it. Activating techniques in the book, some gemstones and some things which we can utilize to activate or make it stronger in the book. Read it. Eighth house is Randhra Bhava, or you can say depth, deep. This is the house which I say which requires the most understanding. If you are able to decipher the eighth house, so eighth house is abyss, never ending, infinite depth, darkness, pure darkness. This is about discovering yourself. When we talk about depth, too deep, that's the place or that's the thing we talk about inheritance, some things which come easy or through other people. This is the house where nobody knows how till where the depth is going. So it requires a lot of things which we relate to research, occult, astrology, even spiritual depths where we reach deeper knowledge, secret services, where we need to discover new things. Eighth house. Eighth house is all about life and death. How will you connect with life and how you will go towards death? Eighth house. When we talk about how actually I will behave in relationships, relationship comes from the seventh house, your romance comes from the fifth, your behavior, your passion, yes. But how actually I will be behaving in relationship, eighth house. People ask me a question about in-laws too often. Your relationship with in-laws comes from the eighth house. If you want to know what kind of relationship you will be carrying with your in-laws, eighth house will come into focus for that. Eighth house is the house of depth. Is the 12th from the 9th. So you can just say where your spiritual things are going towards the darkness, eighth house. When we talk about body parts, reproductive organs, your private parts, eighth house. So your growth has to also come from the eighth house. When we make the combination of fifth house and the eighth house, because fourth from fifth is eighth, Bhavat Bhavam concept, we come to know what will be the sukh of children towards it. How I will be working or acting, reacting in relationship, which I've seen from the seventh house. Eighth house will come into focus. It's a very deep meaning house, very deep meaning house. Because this is chronic illness house also. Anything which will go very long with me, eighth house will tell me. This is one house I can just write a few books onto the eighth house things, because it's got too many things involved in it. Is the depth which every astrologer should at least try to understand what is there in the eighth house. Too much to be read about. In the book, I've tried to give the maximum to the eighth house, But still, there is so much to be discovered about eighth house. If you will look at any big celebrities like even Amitabh Bachchan or Osho or thing, eighth house is fabulously activated. So eighth house becomes too much of a concern to read and study. Do read about it and try to understand about it. Ninth house is Dharma Bhava. As the name says, Dharma, spiritual. But that is just one part of the story. Yes, it involves spiritual places, your spiritual connects. It talks about religious things, you being like a teacher or your things with the teacher, learning the wisdom of the spiritual world. Yes, that's the first meaning of it. But when we go deeper into it, start opening the layers, there are so many things to it. People feel strange, but truth is, legal cases come from the ninth house. Father, the real father, your own father, comes from the ninth house. When people talk to me or they ask me, I want to go out of country and live out there and things like that, long travel comes from the ninth house. The luck comes from the ninth house. If you're looking at post graduation studies and things like those, fifth of fifth is ninth house. Post graduation, if you are like planning to have post graduation, look at the ninth house. And the most strange thing is that if you are looking at second marriage, ninth house comes into the action. Is the third from the seventh. So people talk about my first marriage failed, how will be my second marriage and things. Immediately look at the first element, that is ninth house. Ninth house is wisdom, your own self growth with the connect with the higher, and the connect with the higher is your real father also out here. Relationship with the father, ninth house. When we talk about body parts, hips come into the focus out here. Any injury, risk of injury, especially related to sports, towards the hip side, ninth house. When we talk about profession, teaching things, even long travel things where settlement, immigration, ninth house. So ninth house becomes too important in many things, because if there is any change of attitude of yours, it will connect with the eighth house, which is 12th from ninth. And if it has to give you the real luck in the material sense, it will connect with the 11th house, which is third from the ninth. Third is increase. So there are so many more further deeper meanings when we go deeper and explore more. 10th house is the karma bhava. Karma is actions which we think and we do. Very important house, because some people think father comes from here, but the father or anybody who's like your father, who guides you in your profession or in your karma, real day to day life, that kind of father, not the father from where or from whom you have born biologically. So this karma bhav is too important, because this is your public image. From here, your connection with the world in the public image comes. When it makes a connection with the seventh house, your profession in business connection comes along with it. When we talk about what work I'll be doing, whether I'll be stable in my work, whether the work will give me any returns, how good I will be in my profession, all comes from the 10th house. This is a real action, real oriented karma house, because the returns from the karmas basically starts from the 10th house. Actions can start from the third house. Your sukh or easiness things can start from the fourth house, but the real action of karmas starts from the 10th house. A house very important to understand professional depth into it. A very important house because otherwise it does not give much of illness. But if we talk about knee problems or joint problems around it, nowadays too many people have it. So 10th house comes into focus and we can predict them in advance also, because if we look at the activation of the 10th house, we can surely do that. 11th house is labh bhava. Labh is profit, gains, desires. What I desire, what I want, my ambition, my connect with the social life, my friends, what I actually want, which the whole world knows, not hidden. Hidden comes from the 8th. That is 11th house. You will see ambitious people, 11th house too well activated or too strong. When we look at what kind of money I will earn, what kind of returns I will get, it has to have a beautiful connect with the 10th house. And yes, it creates the Dhan Yoga. Another Dhan Yoga, it connects you with the second house also. Good Dhan Yoga, it gives you the connection with the seventh house, maybe from relationship or business. If it connects you with the fifth house, yes, very good connect in speculation and you can play a lottery or anything like that. When we look at the relationship, your elder brother comes out of it. When we look at the illness thing, anything below the knees till your foot comes in 11th house. So 11th house is my social connect, my social desires. Social services basically are done by the people who got very good 11th house in their activation. 11th house strength, beautiful thing, because it increases lot of things, other things in your life. So 11th house becomes very important to understand that. 12th house is Vyaya Bhava, which means losses, to be more precise. This is loss for everything. Your life loss also comes from the 12th house. Your illness comes from the 12th house. Loss of sleep comes from the 12th house. Loss in health comes from the 12th house. Even when we say confinement yogas or jail or anything, or loss of your free spirit also comes from the 12th house. A very negative house that way. But even the pleasures of your, I will say bed pleasures particularly, comes from the 12th house. So if you want to have a very happy married life and thing, 12th house needs to be emotionally strong. I say emotionally, I mean to say strength of planets in the 12th house should go towards emotions and truthfulness and things. That's how it gives you the social impacts also. As this is a negative house, we really need to study it better because it makes a direct connect with 6, 8, and with this 6, 8 connect, this 12th house creates Vipreet Raj yogas of three kinds. Because it creates such yogas, which yogas you can, yogas are good thing, but like these Vipreet Raj yogas certainly give you certain negative elements along with it also. 12th house involves in, when we talk about body parts, it involves lower part of our foot and even our ankle. Any pain out there thing, this is the house. When it makes the connect with the 12 and 8 together, somewhere or the other it gives you depression, stress, anxiety elements also, OCDs also at times. These kind of people, big phobias. And even when we talk about third sense, or so when we talk about sixth sense also, 12th house needs to be in activation mode. Important house. Book has got more deeper thing. Why I gave this certain brief today, because this book was needed. When I was studying astrology, I always used to try to hunt for such kind of literature, and there was always a shortfall. So in my this endeavor, what I did, I created one book which can at least create the base for the budding astrologers, and they can just understand when we are just working on reading of energy things, which we call planet energies, we are not distorting them. We are not actually disturbing them, and we are not creating bad life for people, because when we become overconfident, and I always say half knowledge is more dangerous than no knowledge, it actually creates more blunders, or it creates more trouble for normal people. So, as a request, I will say read the book. As a request, I will say understand the concept of astrology, at least the base of it. That's why I've just presenting you this book. Try to understand it. Do give me comments how it was, what was the good things in it, or even the shortcomings in it, so that I can just add more things or explain more things. Any questions you have, you're most welcome. Send it out here in the comments or directly to me. I will surely answer.